So this morning we're going to go over our background of why we started Instagram Takeovers, our strategy, some of the challenges that we have with the way we do Instagram Takeovers, and kind of a by the numbers, and our best practices. So we will get started.
All right. So to break the ice, we have a little bit of some video for you. Would you mind clicking on the video first? Thanks.
Okay, so that's an example of one of our units' takeover videos that they posted from the Great Lakes. It is kind of a raw footage, and that's one of the reasons why we have just one official Coast Guard Instagram account, because we do want to get the units involved. But this gives us greater control of our Instagram platform, and it centralizes our storytelling, and there's no split of audience. So like our Facebook pages are very regional, specific, and this captures everyone from Florida to Alaska so that we can tell everyone about the Coast Guard, not just, we're not just making the content specific to the region that maybe the Facebook page does. Another reason is because our public affairs specialist rating is one of the smallest in the Coast Guard. We have only 78, and you have one of them standing right here. So our shop at headquarters is only 4 people, and so we need help with our social media and our Instagram specifically. So letting the units that we have spread all over the nation and also internationally, then this helps them to tell their stories, even if they don't have a public affairs specialist at their unit. And finally, it's kind of like a week in the life every week. The audience gets to see a broad range of our missions, and they get a new perspective.
So here are a few examples from the last couple of months. Just because all of our Facebook pages are regional, not every single unit has a Facebook page, and it gives all of the different units a chance to showcase what they do. And so we have several different missions in the Coast Guard, and this is just a little bit of them.
And so you can see some of the pictures are very photographic, I guess, if you will, or they almost look professional, and that's because on Instagram you can use the filters, unlike if you were actually publishing something on a blog or print. So, or you get some of the raw images, like this really bad selfie down here of the captain and his crew, which is fun because it's the captain being part of the Instagram takeover.
Kind of humanizes our service.
Yes. Okay, so our strategy is that our office works with the units to arrange the takeovers based on their schedules. We try to align the takeovers with large events happening, maybe fleet weeks or festivals that are going on in that region, so that the unit can highlight what they're doing during that time.
We also have a shared calendar managed by Coast Guard Social Media Headquarters, so that all of our units can look at when we have Instagram takeovers. If they see an empty week, they can claim it, or they can check to see when they have it if they've claimed it a few months in advance and forgot. It's also first come, first serve. So like just yesterday we had three people ask, and 2 people asked for the same week. So we had to say, sorry, somebody else emailed an hour ago. So it is first come, first serve, unless something is more pressing.
This is a video. We need a play button. This is footage that was taken from Antarctica when our polar icebreaker went out to break out Station McMurdo.
So I am kind of immersed in sending out the communications with all the different units. So the first thing I do is when we lock in a date for somebody, the Friday before they begin their takeover, I'll send an email saying, hey, this is a reminder that you have an Instagram takeover. And then on the Monday of, I'll send them the login information. And then the next Monday after their takeover ends, we go over the analytics and send them an after action report, just so they're aware and it's good for their marks.
And this also helps us to compile our stats for the month. But our takeovers run from Monday to Sunday, so that gives the units a full week to show what they're doing on a daily basis. And I think I was going to say something else. Oh, and we do have our do's and don'ts and how-tos up here if anybody would like to see them for samples. Some of our do's include do comment or respond to the comments, do post pictures that are, telling the Coast Guard story. We have a list of them, and our don'ts are they fall in line with our social media policy. Don't post pictures that are inappropriate. Don't use foul language. Do you have any other examples?
No, but the one thing that we send these out for is because a lot of the people that are taking over our Instagram account are not public affairs. So they're not trained in public affairs. They could be a bosun's mate. They could be a non-rate E3, E2. So we do like to send these out so that they do get training with their local public affairs office beforehand, but it is a good on-hand thing that they can look at. Another video.
Hang on to your seats for this one.
So one of the things that we love about Instagram, about doing takeovers, is that it shows all the different perspectives, and because we only have 77 people, we're not always in every location. So like this would come from an AST, Aviation Survival Technician.
And as we know, with any social media platform, videos are basically the way of the future. So Instagram has a great way of letting us post short videos that are snackable, as we have learned this week. So we have to monitor the platform, even though we're not taking over the Instagram that week. We still monitor it because, as we said, there are some members that are in charge of the takeover for the week, and they might not have all of the knowledge about our social media policy or our public affairs regs. So we're constantly monitoring, and Diana is specifically almost doing a 24/7 monitoring of this, and she catches a lot of good things. For example, one person actually asked, why aren't you showing pictures of helicopters? And usually we are showing our missions, but this week happened to be our motion picture office. We try to give a range of, the units that get to do the takeover. And so we kind of did some investigating, and the member who posted this question is a member of the Coast Guard. So PO2 reached out and said, well, I noticed that you are questioning, why we're not posting pictures of operations. So would you like to do a takeover? So that's why, sometimes if units don't reach out to us, we will reach out to them.
So that AST video that was just up, that was one of her posts when she took over after posting that comment.
So our challenges.
We have several challenges. Some of them, we're changing passwords every single week so we don't get hacked. And so every single Monday I'm sending out a new password. A lot of times we'll be sending out to Asia or other units across the country, and we get locked out. So that's one of the challenges that we've had before. managing schedule of competing events. So sometimes we have 2 fleet weeks in 1 week. What do you do? So first come, first serve.
Yeah, we have to make the decision that's best for the Coast Guard in the end.
Interrupting during national crisis. If anyone remembers Hurricane Matthew a while ago, we had one of the units take over during the hurricane. So it was like on a Thursday afternoon. We had to take it back. So it can be kind of hard when somebody already has a plan of what they want to do for the entire week. And then last minute cancellations. We've had last minute cancellations happen a couple of times where somebody said, oh, sorry, we're getting underway, I forgot, or so then we've had somebody who says, okay, we can take over, and then the content flow kind of stinks. Like this person posted 2 of the same photos and 4 photos at a desk.
So this is not a successful Instagram takeover. And that's one of the challenges, as Diana's saying. If people last minute back out and then we are scrambling to find another unit to do it, and one unit steps up but they don't understand the extent of what they have to do for the Instagram takeover, they're thinking like, oh, it's just posting pictures as, they happen. Well, that's not just what Instagram's for. We want to use it strategically, and so it is, we try to make sure that the units that are taking over understand what we have in mind for an Instagram takeover, but as you can see, that doesn't always happen. And we were reaching out to multiple people during this time saying like, hey, do you guys have anything else that you can post? Anything?
I think they posted 6 out of 7 days. So yeah, that was a bummer. So keeping content flowing was part of that. Scheduling content. Twitter has TweetDeck, Facebook has a scheduling thing, but Instagram doesn't. They have a thing where you can load everything up and then they'll send you a reminder, but they won't automatically post it. And sometimes when we do takeovers from headquarters, it's really hard for us to take care of everything at the same time. And so that's one of the challenges that we have, is having to figure that out, scheduling. And then there are cutters that are out there who they'll have schedules and... Right,
and if you're going somewhere that you won't get great, Wi-Fi or, Wi-Fi, then you are kind of limited of when you can post. So that's something to think about when you're working with the units to try to get them to do a takeover.
Content moderation, as you saw, I have to read every single comment. Thankfully, we have kind of a small, not thankfully, but we do have a small following, so it's easier for us to monitor all the comments for now. It works for us for now. But then there's also the personal information that we have to be careful of. A lot of times we get questions about recruiting, and somebody says, I live in this place, and can you call my phone number? I want to join. And we kind of have to screenshot those and send them to the recruiters, but then delete them.
So if many of you might not understand how the Coast Guard is set up, so our headquarters is in DC, and then we have 2 areas, PAC and Atlantic area, and then the areas have their districts. Each district has several sectors that fall under them, which are kind of regional hubs. And then sectors are in charge of our small boat stations, our aids to navigation teams, and our marine safety units. So a lot of those units are really small, maybe 20 to 40 people, sometimes more. It just depends on where they're located. And we do have some pretty remote locations as well that the unit might only have 20 people, but they're 5 hours away from anyone else. And so this comes out to about 1,180 total units, and as we mentioned before, we only have 77 public affairs specialists. So our Facebook, our Instagram is a great way to get these units showcased. To date, we have about 3,500 photos, And our followership is growing by about 1,000 per week, and it continuously gains traction. Okay, so we are also, here's kind of a setup of our Coast Guard, where we are. But we are also overseas. We're in Europe and Asia and the Gulf. So it's great to have our units that are overseas also take over, because then they feel like they're part of the Coast Guard when sometimes they're so far away that they might feel forgotten. Oops. Oh, okay. All right, so our best practices. First, I would have to say responding to our comments. We really think that it's a two-way communication platform. So we do get a lot of comments. Some of them are just the basic, hey, great job, we love Coast Guard. And then others might be more questions about our operations, or, like Dinah said, how to join the Coast Guard. So we try to respond to all of those. And because of our size, we can. I'm sure the Marines might not be able to respond to every single comment they get. Right now, or last week, we just did a takeover with NOAA, the Office of Response and Restoration. So that was great because they actually took it over, but they showed pictures of Coast Guard and NOAA working together on scientific research and oil spill cleanup. So that is something that we are trying to do more of. And our most recent endeavor, I guess, from a headquarters perspective, is that we are trying to do takeovers every so often, just so that it's not the units showing their stuff, but from a headquarters perspective, we can dig into more of our strategy, our history, different stories that we want to tell. So we wanted to showcase our Coast Guard in space. So we were able to come up with historical photographs and kind of walk the public, walk our audience through how the Coast Guard is involved in the space program, and we kind of go through it chronologically. We've done history ones. We're going to work with our historians again with World War I artifacts, so they're going to showcase those.
And one of the things we do with that is we prep things ahead of time, and just like yeah, NOAA, before they took over, it's still happening. Before NOAA took over, they sent us a document showing us what they were doing for the week. And then we like to do that for our campaigns at headquarters, just because there's so much going on that it's easier for us to tell the story when we know what we're doing, when we know ahead of time what we're going to post.
And most people think that Instagram is supposed to be instantaneously, which is a great way of using Instagram. But you can also use it by planning it out and making a kind of like a story using your photos. Something else that we have done recently is we use the photo album. So, what? Oh. We use the photo albums, which is a new feature. I don't know if everyone's familiar with it, but you can put up to 10 photos, so you're not flooding people's Instagram with 20 pictures, but you can have two, I guess, posts and multiple pictures.
So this came from a week in the life that we did on our blogs, and then we had the takeover the same week, and so we had maybe 5 to 10 photos a day, and we posted on a Tuesday, this is what the Coast Guard does.
So I think overall we are, one of the best things we like about Instagram is the videos. As you can see, we've been showing you a lot of them. But this one is another great example of why we like having the takeovers, so that units can showcase what they're doing. Okay, and hopefully you're going to get through that.
they're definitely smaller boats than the Navy, but they're more fun, I think.
Again, they're the snackable, 15 or even less, like 10 seconds of just showing what is happening in the Coast Guard. Okay, so I think that concludes our presentation. I think we're way early, but that gives you time to go get more coffee for today.
But that just shows us how we fit the tool into our social media.
Yeah, so our captain likes to say, don't let the tool define your strategy, fit your strategy into the tool. And for Instagram specifically, this works for us. Like I said, because of control and our specialty is small, and we want to show our audience the range of the Coast Guard. And we can take questions. Like I said, we have our handouts for the do's and don'ts and our how to do Instagram. Thank you. Yes, yeah, please. Okay, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for participating this year again. You all were talking about an Instagram takeover and coordinating so you can disperse it throughout all your units. So my two questions to that was, how do you identify who goes next? This is just alphabetical order and whatnot. And then the other one is, when you have those conflicts, a unit is supposed to, or an organization is supposed to, and they don't, how do you then identify who's an alternative in your preparation for that person to actually execute?
So, yeah, I actually reach out to our regions, our district offices. We have 9 district offices. I reach out to those public affairs offices and say, we have a couple of weeks open in this month, and we'd like to fill in. Do you have any units that have expressed interest, or do you have any units that you know have been sending you great photos that maybe they would want to take a takeover? And then for the conflicts, it's probably bad. I don't usually have a backup, but I do run back to the districts and say, please. So otherwise, we'll do a takeover at the last minute. We've done that before.
Yeah, we would just pull photos from divots if we had to in a pinch. I think that we do put a lot of trust in our units, and because we are a small organization, we know, chain of command, we can look up very easily where this person is and who to talk to if they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, or they said they were going to do it and they're not doing it. We use our field, and most people are responsive, and they hold each other accountable, I think, because we have such a small public affairs specialty, and people want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the Coast Guard.
That's one of the things that I send out the reminder emails the Friday before, to make sure that, you do have the takeover, right? You're going to take it over. Don't leave me hanging. And usually I get a response back. So otherwise, and one of the things that our captain likes is when we tell a story. And so if in a pinch we have a last minute, we can go back to, we have a blog, the Long Blue Line. It goes out every Thursday, and we can go back through that and say, this one's a really long one. Maybe we can run that for a week.
Yeah, so we could take a blog and cut it up into different pieces, put a photo with it, and then you're telling a story through the week. There is a limit on how much text you can put in an Instagram post. I don't know the exact number of
But we can
characters.
summarize parts of that.
So,
yeah.
We do have our shared calendar, which we really push to our district public affairs officers to look at, so that they know, if their units are coming up for a takeover, and also when there are openings. And we have, our weekly email that goes out saying what we're doing at our headquarters level, so that all the other units are aware. And we try to encourage everyone to kind of think ahead. If you have, events coming up, let's get you on the calendar now. So we are booked out right now and through
Mid-June.
mid-June. And then we'll just continuously work on it, when we have lag time, which is not that often, but we'll send out emails saying like, hey, starting June 15th, we have openings, so get your week on the calendar. We also have people that request a year out because they know they want this certain week every year because of an air show, or our commandant's change of command will be next year, so they want a week before that to kind of showcase the commandant. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I manage the National Archives Instagram, so I watched this with great interest.
Oh, good.
And since there's only me and I manage several platforms, I really couldn't do a takeover series because it is a lot of work. But I was wondering if you could talk more about your video strategy. Like when you send out the instructions, do you say we want like one video per week, or do you have some kind of thought about how you work video into Instagram, or is it just kind of spontaneous? Tell me how you're doing it.
So when I reach out to a unit, when I'm talking about, so a lot of times we'll get people, not public affairs, that will ask us, well, what should we post, or how do we do this? And so I'll say, tell us what your unit is about. That's all we want on Instagram. Like, it can be videos, it can be albums, it can be photos. We also have the how-to guides and do's and don'ts. We try to limit videos to about 20 seconds if we can. And then with the music, it's got to be royalty-free music. So
We have, I would say a lot of the members who are interested in taking over are the young junior members who are very familiar with Instagram and all the social platforms, and they know that video is what sells, if you will. So they are, I think a lot of our units are putting videos up on their own just because they think it's fun to do, and it's really their way of showing, because you can say more with a video than you can with a photo. But some units will take a lot of selfies or pictures of members and showcase the people, the members, and other ones will just kind of showcase their operations. Maybe they'll take a picture of their station. One unit did a takeover of all of their mascots, so it was flooded with cats and dogs. But with our range of audience, some people love that. So did that answer your question? And let's talk. Maybe you can take over ours and we'll work with you.
Yeah, I was wondering what we must have.
Noah said that they only had like 1 or 2 people on their staff, so, the oil and restoration response. So, and we kind of prepped for a couple months with them, and it was great. So,
What kind? Is it on?
Yeah.
What kind of processes do you have in place to make sure that you're compliant with the DoD release security reviews, and to avoid things like endorsements and other, what a service member will typically do, since a lot of them aren't necessarily public affairs trained?
when we send out the emails, we send them out to the command, we send them out to the social media chief, I send them out to Lieutenant Janaro. So we have a lot of people that we know that this person is going to be taking over. We know this person is not a public affairs specialist. So we have a lot of eyes on what goes out.
But they don't have to have any authorization from us. They don't have to send it to us and have us sign off on it. But we really turn to their command and their district public affairs office to be the ones that are monitoring it. We are the backup monitors, and if we see something. But for a lot of the times, our cutters will not be doing a takeover while they're underway doing operations that are, more national security related. They will wait until they get home, and then they will post things. Those have to go through their command. I would assume we don't make them go through us to get it approved, but I know that large cutters, when they're doing anything, when they're releasing any information to the public, then it has to go through a authorization process or approval process.
And endorsements, there's really, I don't think we've ever really had any issues with endorsements. Most people kind of keep everything to the Coast Guard.
Thanks.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for presenting today. I would like to know if your units have made any big mistakes, any whoops, and how your leadership responded. And then the second part of my question would be I assume that there's a larger goal in doing this whole campaign of takeovers. How are you measuring your success? How would you define it?
I guess the success part I can answer pretty easily. We look at analytics every single week, every single Monday after a takeover ends. Analytics don't really show on the computer, but they show on your mobile devices. So I'll go through each individual photo, and sometimes it's 90 photos a week, but I'll go through each individual photo and find those analytics, the reach, the engagement, the likes, the comments. So then I have a spreadsheet that is shared through everyone on our team. And so we show every week the followership and how much it's gone up every week. We show from 1 week it was 600,000 reach to 1.8 million. So it kind of shows how successful the takeover was, or how successful the entire program is. And then
The first question was
Have you
about.
had any failures or oops moments in how your leadership responded?
Yes, so
moments.
there have been some photos that maybe weren't aligned with our policy. I think there was something sent out with people in bikinis or something like that. So we work with the command. We have the password, so we'll go in and just take it off. And then we'll follow up with the command, and we kind of leave it in their hands. We haven't had anything so great that our headquarters level, it hasn't gone up to our highest leaderships. So I think we try to take care of it on the lowest level that we can, because we do want units to participate, and we want them to do this. We don't want them to be scared of us. We don't want them to say, public affairs are going to really monitor us and make sure, we won't be able to post anything. So I think by having such a small, kind of intimate group, then we can do that without having to get our highest levels involved.
So I've been running Instagram, the Takeover program, for about 2 years now. So most everybody, especially the districts, can say, we want to do a takeover. They know exactly who to contact.
I would say actually our Instagram is not nearly as tricky as our Facebook or Twitter. And especially with the comments, we hide a lot of our Facebook comments, especially in recent, because of the political stuff that's going on. So I'd say compared to the other platforms, Instagram is pretty easy, and our units are very, they follow our policies.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Green. Can you hear me now? I manage social media for the Kentucky National Guard. And when we started to push Instagram, your all's page was exactly what I saw first and absolutely love. I love what you guys do, humanizing the entire service, and not just a few social media folks. You actually give it out to the field. That's an amazing idea in my mind, which is why I totally stole it and ran with it as much as I possibly can. We still get hit with all kind of skepticism from commands in the field. How do you get the command leadership buy-in, and what do you say to them to get that? Or what would you say to Army and Marines or whoever out there to say, here's how you get your command buy-in to allow us to allow this takeover?
I think one of the things about our Instagram is that we only have one. So we don't have the authority to say, this command can have an Instagram account, this command can have an Instagram account. So when we have one centralized account, it doesn't give them a choice. And then we also involve the command when it comes to takeovers. We say, this E4 wants to do a takeover, make sure that it's okay with your command, and we have command CC'd on any communication that we have. So when they're involved, and they can go back and say, well, before you do a takeover, let me see what you want to post. And they can have kind of that control. So I think that kind of alleviates some of the pressure on the command.
Yeah, as Diana mentioned, we only have one Instagram account, and so actually our units are vying to get on Instagram because it is the only one. And I think, just showing the commands what has been posted on Instagram, and they're like, oh, well, this unit did it, then we should do it, because they're getting all of this, highlighting, and so we want to do that too. So that's the great thing about having just one account. And also, like I mentioned before, the young people want to do it, and so a lot of our commands are actually younger members because they're smaller units. So our junior officers are, they're in command of a 87-foot patrol boat or a small boat station. So if you have younger members that are interested in it and do it on their own personal time, then they're like, oh yeah, Instagram, let's do it.
We get a lot of.
It's not as scary to our small units, and in even our larger units, I think commands are now realizing that social media is really important, and it's kind of a competition. Like, oh, well, this unit got this many likes. Let's see if we can do more.
Mm-hmm. We also have great leadership in the Coast Guard. Just yesterday, I attended a retirement with our commandant, and he was all about social media. Social media, like go on Facebook and go on Instagram, and so I think with his back, we can.
Thanks. Any other questions?
All right.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a great Friday.